Nou ja, vanaand hier op hierdie aand is ek nou nog eintlik in 'n bevoorregte posisie om vir Ricardo Maarman van AZANIA hier by my te hê. Die hele wat my kanaal volg sal weet, politieke leiers is nie eintlik lus om met my te gesels nie, want hulle is bang vir daai boerans. But Ricardo was really accommodating, and he said to me that he's got an important announcement to make. So I'm quite excited to hear what his announcement is. Ricardo, welcome on Briekmerke, aka Skidmarks.
Thank you very much, Colleen. I really appreciate it. Ek waardeer dit dat jy my toelaat om Afrikaans te praat, sodat ons 'n bietjie met 'n groter audience praat daar buite. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And thank you for having me. It is a big announcement we are going to make, and I think it's a very interesting discussion that we will have as well. I really appreciate being here. I've watched your work. You've spread a lot of the truth when we were fighting a very severe and draconian lockdown there as well. We must never forget that because we are not out of the woods as yet. The fight continues. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes. If you watch my work, you will see that I'm a guy that are not afraid to ask the question that everybody dodges. I ask the questions. And what is most important to me is that the listeners must think about what is being said. They must apply their own minds and feel comfortable with the decisions that they make without being pushed into something by a smooth-talking Vaselina, as I call them. Right? The floor is yours. Go for it. I'll signal you if I want to interrupt.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Colleen. I appreciate that. So as I said, the announcement that I want to make is that AZANIA is a political party, as I'm sure many of you are aware. And some of you, like yourself, you've heard of me and learned of me when I was fighting the government with the draconian lockdown that was imposed and the toxic vaccines that were imposed on the people. So that's where it started. When I was fighting that fight, I realized that the only way to change things is to change things with political power, because political power was used against the people of South Africa mercilessly, and against the people of the world, to be honest with you, mercilessly. And I went to court. I did many things to try and stop the oppression of the people, but there was no relenting. And so I realized political power is the only way to do so. I should try and to contest for political power, in order to then protect the people for an inevitable lockdown that will come, unless we change the power structure of this country and of the world, really. And so anyways, I did that. I participated. Please go ahead, Colin, if you have something to say there.
Sê vir my, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Wat maak jou so seker daar gaan nog 'n lockdown kom?
I'm certain about it for many reasons. That one is that the vaccinations and the scare of pandemics and viruses, etc. This is quite a big tool that the cabal, let's call it the cabal for now, that the cabal has to control the population. So this is very, very important. They've invested a lot in this. Big industries have been built around this. The second issue is that when we had the BRICS conference now recently, in the BRICS conference, our government part of the discussions was a lockdown preparedness discussion between the heads of state. So maybe these are some of the reasons to mention to you, but there are many, many other reasons. Every now and again, if you follow the World Health Organization, they test the waters. There might be a new variant, a new virus, etc. So unfortunately, I believe in many ways that the lockdown that we saw in 2020, they've tried to lock down the world at least once before lockdown happened. And when that lockdown happened, they flexed their muscles. It worked. It was, from their point of view, fantastic how it worked and how obedient the people were. I think definitely they're going to try it again. One, because it worked. Two, because it's part of the agenda, unfortunately.
Okay, well, from what I see around, and I'm just going to talk about the West. In the Western world, A lot of people has woken up to that. And I personally believe, looking at it with the eyes of a strategist, I think they overplayed their hand with the lockdowns. They ran the scam for too long, and a lot of people started waking up. And another thing that I pick up is that a lot of people are now beginning to see friends and family falling over, and they are beginning to question. So I hear you what you say, that they gained a lot of confidence from the success of the previous one. Same stunt again. It's not only going to be a small group like us that's going to say no, 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 no. There's going to be much more people that's going to say, whoa, stop Lori. That's
Look,
what I
yeah. No, you make a good point there, but please, you were not finished there. Continue your point. I thought you were finished.
No, no, no. You can carry on.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, look, it all depends, and this is where we come to the discussion now of the announcement that I'm making. It all depends on, you see, this is now the election cycle after the lockdown. And this is a
Yes.
great test for the populations of the world and for the population of South Africa. So if the South African population elect any of the 14 political parties that work together to lock them down, then I think that the cabal have succeeded. And I think this is a test. They would then realize, we are ready to spring another lockdown on these people because they have forgotten or they don't fully understand what we did to them last time, etc. So this lockdown is very important. This election is very important.
What you have said now is something that I will keep in mind, because there is so much truth in that statement. If you vote again for the people that locked you down, it shows that you want to be locked down.
It's true. It's true. I don't know if you're aware, but I'll just announce it as well. I've recently published a book called The Subversion of South Africa, in which I explain how the cabal really, play their tricks on the people. And this is a more of a mental war. And that is why I call subversion. This is where they play on the people's mentality, on their thinking, on their psychology, on their emotions. This is what they do. And as I say, we've locked you down, we've pressed you down, we've put a boot on your neck. We've done it through the ANC, the DA, the EFF. All of these political parties were there when they crushed you. Not one of them stood up for you. And now, a few years later, here we parade them in front of you again. Now, this is a test. How will you respond? And so this is very important. So what happens is, the cabal realized this election is so important, and I realized it too. And that is why I, registered a political party. That is why I applied with the IEC to be on the ballot, because I am hoping that the South African people have not forgotten the oppression that they suffered, and that they have not forgotten that there was no political party. There was no political party that was even coming close to touching me. To saying, hey, this guy's got something here, let's stand with him. I reached out to them and I said to them, look, you didn't raise the question in Parliament and all of that, but there's something wrong here. Our people are being oppressed and you have to stand up for the people. So they were not there. Our people are being tested. However, as I registered for this election, at the beginning, I complained to the IEC, because I know that, our elections in this country, they're usually skewed in favor of the cabal-funded political parties. And so I raised this issue at the IEC on the 22nd of November, 2023. I said to the IEC, listen, you have to do something, because our elections are skewed in favor of the cabal-funded political parties. Just look at the Oppenheimer cabal and related companies. It's easy to look at them. Look at directorships, cross-pollinating directorships that they have, shareholding relationships, etc. It is not so difficult to investigate, to realize we've got a cabal operating in the country, and much of this cabal emanates from the Oppenheimer wealth, that has been dominating this country. And look then at the election finance. look at the different parties and you find these similar people that are funding almost all of the major political parties in the country. If this is the case and you allow the Oppenheimer cabal to do so, we are going to find a situation in the 2024 election that the ballot will be dominated by these parties. And South African people will be, duped here. They will be, in a way, tricked to choose between one cabal-funded political party and another cabal-funded political party. I told the
Exactly.
IEC, this is the real state capture. It starts even before a vote is casted. And so I said to the IEC, please do something about this. I'm warning you now in November. I registered the political party, I think, in September or so. So just a month or so after that, I say to the IEC, I would like to participate in the 2024 elections, but please, you have to address this issue. So I wrote that letter on the 22nd of November, 2023, the IEC to the IEC Chief Electoral Officer. The electoral officer, his office acknowledged receipt of my email, but up to today, which is the 28th of March, 2024, I received no response from the electoral officer that he was going to deal with this issue. So in any case, nonetheless, I decided, despite my reservations and despite the concerns that I raised with the chief electoral officer, and against the odds, I'm still going to register for the elections. I'm going to put my party in. I'm going to try and meet many of the difficult requirements that there is so that I can participate in the elections against the odds, because I would like to change things in this country in a peaceful manner, in an orderly manner. We don't need further chaos and disruption in the country. So then the IEC had certain requirements, difficult requirements, signatures, and a lot of money that we needed to pay to be in the elections. But one of the requirements was now, for example, because I wanted to participate in the national election, that is for the seats in parliament. That is a priority because, as you know, in South Africa, there is a very centralized government. The national government can place the provinces, the provincial government under administration, and the provincial government can place the municipalities under administration. So power is very centralized in South Africa. So if you really want to effect change, you want to compete in the national election. To compete in the national election, the rules are that you need to at least have enough signatures for one province. The smallest province in the country is the Northern Cape in terms of the population. And so there you required 1,800 or so signatures, I believe. And you pay 50,000 Rand. And then you can compete there, and you can compete nationally if you pay another 200,000 Rand, I believe. So in our situation, we collected enough signatures to compete in Cape Town, Cape Province, which required 7,000 signatures around about. And then in Gauteng, you require, this is the other province that we applied for, you require 8,000 signatures. So as you can see there, this is quite a lot of signatures. And then in addition, we paid extra money so that we can be on the national ballot as well, because that's where we really wanted to compete. So anyways, we did all of these things on the 8th of March. We handed it in, etc. And on the 26th or around about there, I heard, not even from the IEC directly, just in the public, that, hey, wait a minute, AZANIA does not appear on the ballot. And I say, how did that happen? In any case, so people showed me and I had a look, say, okay, this is the situation. And then I realized, no, we do appear on the ballot, but we only appear provincially for in the Western Cape. And so then I drove to the IEC head office and I said, no, look, what is this? I paid the 400,000. I gave all of this. I expected to appear on all of the ballots, and now you only allow, making me appear on this. And they say, well, and you don't give me any explanation. You don't send me a communication as what is happening. I made this application on the 8th of March, and now on the 26th, I hear public communication instead of coming directly from you. So the IEC said to me, look, you must probably did not meet our requirements, etc., and we don't have any need to communicate to you. There's no obligation on us to give you any direct explanation. We don't need to do so. And the matter is, this is our decision. It's a law. We've applied the law, and that's how it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. Of course, as you know, the regulation. Yes, exactly. And as you know, the regulations is that you can go to the electoral court, but as you know, I've got a lot of experience in the court. So I said to the IEC, look, I disagree with this. I think this is not fair. We gave you the signatures, we gave you the money, we gave you everything. I require from you at least a written explanation of what is here so that I can consider what it is that I need to do. But to cut a long story short, for you is that the background that I've given you from our complaint on the 22nd of November, that this election is skewed. And now this kind of experience, despite us trying our level best to do things peacefully, orderly, to compete in an election that is heavily stacked against us. So because of all of these things in combination, we have decided that the best course of action to take would be to call for a boycott on this election. Because you must understand, currently of all of the political parties, please go ahead.
Let's just get this clear. Jy het genoeg signatures gehad en jy het jou geld betaal.
400,000.
Alles daai was reg. And they leave you off the national ballot.
Exactly. And this is, just to explain that to you, Colleen, this has happened to at least one or two other political parties. And there's a common denominator between us, Colleen, that we have been outspoken about the Oppenheimer cabal. And I've been outspoken about these people for a very long time. The other political party, apparently, I only learned about it today, after I've learned yesterday about, what happened to us. But the other political party had a very similar, I won't mention their name and give them unnecessary advertising here, but they had the same experience. In fact, with them, they were appearing on the ballot nationally first, and then all of the IEC removed them. So there was a public ballot that was made public, and they appeared on that, and everybody saw them. And then all of a sudden, they don't appear. And they can explain, you can Google this easily, you will see the same story. They receive no explanation from the IEC. The IEC tells them that's the situation, there's nothing you can do, etc. So, but I want people to consider here, Colleen, that this is not an isolated issue. There is more here, and after you make a comment, I will just want to explain a little bit of the background.
So, kom ons vat dit net mooi saam. Jy het al die goed gedoen. En toe los hulle jou af. En toe jy daaroor praat, toe sê hulle vir jou, hulle het nie nodig om te verduidelik nie.
Ja.
Maar wat is dit? Dis mos 'n dictatorship.
It's worse than a dictatorship, Colleen, because you see, we're living in my book, The Subversion of South Africa. I explain, that we are living in a masked one-party state. We are living in a dictatorship. But it's just
I had a discussion with Richard Botha, and I said to him, I'm going to make a statement. And I said, South Africa is a democratic dictatorship. And he was quiet for a moment, and then he said to me, that could actually be it, a democratic dictatorship. The problem that we have, now I'm going to float a little bit off the topic, is I have said it many times in my Skidmarks, that the plan of the ANC is to collapse South Africa as a unitary republic, balkanize it, like what happened to Yugoslavia and what happened to the USSR when the USSR collapsed. But if you look at what happened in the USSR, the first things that was visible is all of a sudden, all the vital state assets landed in the hands of the oligarchs. At the same time, the oligarchs deployed their criminal gangs into society because the gangs were used to control society, and the state assets was in the hands of the oligarchs. And then they collapsed the USSR. And that was one of the big things that Putin had to do when he came into power. His first fight, root out the gangsters. And he brought some of his old KGB friends in, of course. and he gave them unlimited budget and full protection and immunity, and he said, go. And it took about 2 months in Moscow, and the public realized, but this oak is not playing with the gangsters. So they hit the gangsters with the same brutality that the gangsters were applying to the public. And after 2 months, the public realized, okay, this guy means business, and the public opinion swung in behind him. And here we sit 20 years later, the man just now won the presidential election with 87% of the vote. You know, it tells you that the people are desperate for good leaders. But now you're telling me that you were kept off the ballot and they tell you that they don't need to give an explanation. Het hulle jou geld teruggegee?
Not yet. So what happens is I would get the deposit back 300,000. So I've paid 400,000 because I'm on the ballot for only 2 provinces. The provinces are only 50,000 rand. It's a lot of money, but it's 50,000 a province. I have paid in total 400,000. That was to include the national as well. So the 300,000 I will be refunded, but not the 100,000. But you see, the issue here is that we have a system here, you know, that not all of the political parties can compete in South Africa. There are certain barriers to entry. And there's, of course, regulations that are used to manage the situation. So this is what makes it worse, in our country, that the ones that really dominate this country is the Oppenheimer cabal, the money powers in the country, and them you do not elect. They operate this country by proxy. How do they do so? They make sure that they handpick certain political parties and political leaders, and they bribe them. That is why you find in South Africa that the political elite is so rich in this country. The political elite is rich, and the political elite are very well connected. They hang out with, they are in foundations with, when they leave politics, in business with, when they leave politics, with the very rich people in our country. And together, these 2 groups, they exploit the people of South Africa. They turn them against each other, black against white, etc. So we have a worse situation here, that the people of South Africa, every election, they are cheated. And this election, there would be the same. We tried our best so that would not happen. At least not, obviously we can't from our vantage point change it completely. But we said, if at least AZANIA is on the ballot, there will be one political party that speaks out against the Oppenheimer cabal. There will be a political party that speaks out against the lockdown, against all of these kind of things that are happening. Now there's none. Now the South African people don't have any choice. Whatever they choose are all parties that are going to pursue the agenda. And this is wrong. This means that our democracy is not a democracy because the people don't have a real choice. Secondly, that the government that governs over us is not really the one that's wielding power. They are merely puppets of those that are behind them. So this makes our situation in the country very bad and very desperate.
Okay, in my language, I refer to what you call the cabal. I refer to them as triple X. And triple X is constructed by the first X is the Rothschilds and the Zionists. The second X is Klaus Schwab and his gang. And the third X is the global capitalists. Now here in South Africa, our Stellenbosch boykies, they are very firm in with the second X and the third X. But a lot of them are also connected into the first X. So there's no question about the connections. That's there. And as I said, I think they're planning to do to South Africa what they did to Yugoslavia and to the USSR. My opinion is that the last asset to get into the oligarchs' hands is Eskom, because with Eskom they can control the whole region. But then I changed my view after a lot of discussions with knowledgeable people, and I realized that the true value of Eskom is the national grid. That is the true value. The generation can be replaced quite quickly by other options, and can be privatized easily and go up and running with private investment. And they've got enough capital to do it. The distribution in the cities and towns and so forth, the local administrations will look after that in any case, because they have to keep their citizens happy. So the main value is the national grid transmission. And then we saw with this last loan that Cyril did with the IMF, the IMF made a statement that they said they agree with the chunking of Eskom into 3 sections, and they are happy that transmission is on its own. And the next, I read an article, Cyril gave transmission as security against that loan. Now, what does that mean in reality? It means in reality, the IMF, which is by definition XXX, the IMF now has the transmission in their hands. All they need to do is tell Cyril, hey, we've got a problem here, pay back the loan. Can't pay back, okay, we take transmission. So my opinion is we are very close to balkanization. And with what you have told me now, I think you will be willing to lend an ear to what I'm saying. I have a very, very strong suspicion that we're not going to see an election. I have got a serious suspicion that we're not going to see an election. They're going to collapse the country before that. And the regions will have to make do. Go.
Yeah, I disagree with that slightly. I think they want to have an election, but they want to have a stage-managed election. And that collapse that you are talking about, that collapse is going to come a little bit later. Because you see, South Africa they've been trying to collapse the country for some time. For some reason or the other, the people are very robust in South Africa. Some other places, they might have already toppled them. But South Africa is really hanging on, and everybody's wondering, when will this country collapse? So I think they've extended their plan a little bit, but I think within the next 5 years, they're going to break this country down. And part of is what you say, but I have a slightly different view on their position on Eskom. But that is part of the reason that I am calling for a boycott on this election, because it is that important, and I'm now not allowed to compete on it fair and square, and I cannot just stand on the sideline. With your permission, I would also explain to people later what does the boycott mean and how will this help anything. But that's why it's so important. So in this election, the plan is they have to make sure that people like myself is not on the ballot. I'm a big threat to all of these plans. If the people listen to me, if I get anywhere close to power, it will be difficult to push the agenda that they want to. And one of those agendas include the lockdown. With me anywhere close to power, they're not going to get that right at all. Secondly, when it comes to Eskom, I'll give you an idea. With Eskom, the idea is that they want to, you're quite right, they want to turn us into the Soviet Union, that the Soviet Union was. But in order to do that, they have to impoverish the people of the country. Now, South Africa is a strange country, as you know. There are parts of the country that had the development of a first world country, highly developed. And in some instances and in some times exceeded and competed with many of the developments in other places, right? But in other areas, South Africa is very underdeveloped. And so the idea behind the load shedding and all of these maneuvers around Eskom is to restrict the energy supply to South Africa and to constantly restrict it under different disguises, etc. If you restrict the energy supply to a country, you would restrict the capacity for the country to develop or to maintain industries that were already there. And these industries would collapse. And once these industries collapse, South Africa would then be in a perfect condition for a proper communist kind of dictatorship, where most of the people are poor, hungry, and desperate. And in order to do that, you need to put the squeeze on. And you can't obviously do it directly in South Africa, because the people will notice it. They will listen to a person like me and they come and support him, and we will stop what is happening. So you got to come up with all these excuses and complicated plans. But the idea is choke the country for electricity so that you can bring that part of the country that is developed on equal footing with that is not developed. You see it on the street, for example. The amount of the growth in white poverty in South Africa is unbelievable. And people don't see what is happening, that what is happening, the South African people are brought down to an equal level of poverty and desperation so that it's easier to manage them. You can't impose communism in a country when there is still such a very relatively strong and large middle class and a developed sector in the economy.
Okay. On my channel, I started last year around about August promoting the idea of go tribal. I am of the opinion that it is only the tribes that is going to survive. It is only the tribes that have the power to break the stranglehold that XXX, your cabal, has got on the country, because it is a tribal leader that can tell Gencor, you're not going to take one more cubic meter of rock out of this ground unless you pay us a fair price. And don't bring your contracts. We don't acknowledge that law here. You make a deal, which is a decent deal, or go. And it's only the tribes that can do it, because the legal structure and the governmental structure has been set up exactly to protect them. So I'm of the opinion it is only the tribes that will survive. But what you have said to me, how they treated you at the IEC, is extremely fucking disturbing, to put it mildly. And secondly, I don't agree with you that it can last another 5 years, for the simple reason, Ricardo, what gives a state the validity and right to call itself a state? A civil service. A civil service supports a state. Now, you know it as well as I. The civil service has been decimated. There's not a single government department that is still functional. There's none of that. You say to me that the IEC did this to you, and I sit here and I listen, and then you say, okay, you're talking about a boycott of the election. And I think about that, and I've got a problem, because I'm on my side has been encouraging the Boere to vote. But I've said to them, my people come to me and say, who must we vote for? And I say, whoa. I'm still looking for who to vote for. Now, explain to us, how do you see the vote boycott?
Look, the first thing, as you explained, that South Africans don't know who to vote for. So you do not have to participate in an election. If you believe that, one, you don't have faith in the election system, then you should boycott the election. If you do not have faith that the parties on the list are parties that you would want to vote for, then the idea of choosing between two devils or two evils, this is a false choice, and people should not fall for that. So this is where an election boycott comes in, because this is an important issue. You can't just reluctantly hand over political party power to any party. And this is where the Oppenheimer cabal deceives the public. They make sure that the choices on the ballot are all just compromise guys. Most of the major political parties, you dig, and you're going to find some cabal operative that has funded that party or connections, etc. And most of the public knows that. And I think most of your electorate, of the people that listen here, the Boere, as you say, most of them know that the Boere have been betrayed. They've seen how de Klerk and has betrayed them, and so they know that, they understand the political environment hasn't changed much. There's no options. So I'm saying, under such conditions, number one, where you believe that there is only devils on the ballot and you have to choose between the lesser of them, then your system is compromised, and you should not continue. You should stop and fix it. When you have to choose between two evils, you just don't close your eyes and choose between two evils and go ahead, because nothing will change. You have to stop and fix it. Now, how does an election boycott do so?
I understand.
Firstly, how does an election boycott do so? an election boycott is a peaceful way to protest, to say, no, 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 we are not happy with the kind of political options that we have in front of us. And if we're going to continue with this democracy, we have to fix the issue. What is stopping good candidates from being on the ballot? And what kind of a system do we have where we produce these options that we do not feel happy with? And when we vote, nothing changes. So what does an election boycott do? It says we need to stop and we need to look at these options. Now, how do we ignite that stop in the system? Well, an election boycott aims to ensure that the voter turnout for the election is below 50%. So we need to make sure that the voter turnout is below 50%. What happens when the voter turnout is below 50%? That means that whatever government that is elected from a voter turnout below 50% is a minority government. And in a democratic sense, this is an illegitimate government. This is an election that cannot stand, because a minority has elected the government. This was the same grounds that was put on, against the apartheid government, that it's a minority government. Only a portion of the population was allowed to vote for it. So the same happens in an election boycott. This is one, it makes sure that whatever government is illegitimate, the election process is illegitimate. The only thing is that people need to actively participate in a boycott, not just sit at home. If they actively participate in a boycott and they get behind someone like me, then we can raise the issue. We could say, this is the reason why we're not voting. At the moment, the IEC and everybody is trying to come up with these mysterious reasons why the voter turnout is collapsing and why people... Now, in a boycott, we say, this is why we're not voting. Because there are no proper options on the ballot. Because we vote and nothing changes. Because we need to look at our election system. We need a system that produces good options. And that after we vote, produces accountability and change. This is not going to change automatically, because you must understand there are certain people that have designed the system to be as it is, that are manipulating it as it is, and that is why it is as it is. The only way it changes the system is if we boycott it now. Boycott is not a violent thing, it's peaceful. As if you listen to some of the statements that I made about AZANIA, I advocate for a peaceful revolution. Like I said, initially you said, we're going to get out of the situation in a tribal form. I disagree. I believe that we just look at the lockdown. Imagine if we were now in the middle of a lockdown. Then the only thing that we needed to do was to, go against the system. And I am saying here that we need to have a peaceful revolution now while we can. We can now. No one is forcing you to put a mask on your face. And so now this is the test. I am telling you that I would have been the only option on the ballot to go against these guys. I've explained to you what kind of things took place, that I am not on the ballot as it is. And so now I'm saying to you that if you agree with me that all I have to choose on the ballot is between two devils and two evils, and that every time I vote, it doesn't matter, everything stays the same, we are moving in the same direction, then please agree with me. Let us not vote. This will show them that we believe that the system is illegitimate. We need to stop and we need to fix it. But we can't just stay at home. We have to do this in an organized manner. And I am now organizing the manner. And I am saying we are not just staying at home. We are boycotting actively. And it's not because we believe elections are not necessary, or elections are wrong, or an election system is immoral. No, elections are very important, very necessary. An institution like that is very important and very necessary. But we can't have a compromised, corrupt election system. That is a system that will destroy and subvert this country. And the politicians won't fix it. The people who benefit from this won't fix it. The political parties that are funded by the cabal won't fix it, because they benefit from it. You, the South African people, have to fix it. As we said, the lockdown was a test. Now this election is a test. And the reason why I'm fighting like this, one, I fought to try and get a political party registered, then fought to be on the ballot. I fought for you during the COVID-19 lockdown. Now, this is not separate fights. This is a continuation of one fight for our freedom. Because you see, when the lockdown was lifted, for me, it was never lifted. I still had in the back of my mind the reality where we lived in, where you were forced to put a mask on your face, where the security guard at the mall refused you entry. That is waiting for us. And that is why I say, if I can't be on the ballot, then we must influence it in another way. And especially, the catastrophe and the crisis that is waiting ahead for us. We don't have the time to play around and do nothing. And as I say, I have a fair case to make. I tried my very best to be on the ballot. I tried my very best to make this kind of argument. If I now just stand by and do nothing, I won't be able to live with myself. And I'm warning people, stand with me on the boycott. Otherwise, you are going to regret whatever option you make after the election. We are going to be in crisis. And it's better to meet a crisis in front than to meet a crisis on your heels.
Ricardo, what you have said makes a lot of sense. But we've got one big problem. For your campaign to succeed, we need to get the voting percentage below 50%. That's the first hurdle to get past. The second hurdle, or the second thing to make it active or make it worth something, is that there must be a general agreement by all observers and everybody that it is an illegitimate government because it's a minority government. Now, first of all, the question of the minority government is not going to bother XXX. They won't give a shit about that. That's not going to bother them at all. The problem with getting the vote below 50%, there's a practical problem here. First of all, the country is being bullshitted and bamboozled about the number of Zulus in the country. If you look at the official figures, they talk of around about 21 million. If you talk to guys that knows the inner workings at Home Affairs and so, they tell you the Zulus are actually over 25 million, which is already 50% of the population, of the official population. What Zuma is doing currently with MK is he is firing the people up tremendously to vote. So he's going to get a lot of voters to actually participate. And with them being such a big group, they're going to make that dream of below 50% very difficult to achieve. And then you throw in on the other side, the ANC and its followers are going to fight like hell to keep MK out. So between those two groups, I personally believe that the possibility of going below 50% is very low. Now, whoever takes over the government is in any case going to fail. The ANC has set it up in such a way that this country cannot continue. The debt is too much. The unemployment is too much. The collapse of the railways, the collapse of Eskom, the collapse of the harbors, the collapse of our industrial base, all of those things are... I've got a meme that I made of a blown-out German tank in the Ukraine, and the thing has been bombed to pieces. And my question is, do you think by changing the driver, this thing is going to go? It's not going to go. So I hear your arguments for boycott. I am not convinced that it has got a viable chance of really winning because of the reasons that I gave now. Maybe you should look for a political partner of someone that is on the ballot and throw your weight in with them. But then, as you say, that ballot, if you look at it, yes, that thing is fraught. It's not, I can't see. I will still run a poll and test the waters on my group. Then tell me, okay, which one of these parties, and just remember, if they support gay rights, they're off. Who's going to be left on that list?
Maybe just to answer some of the questions that you posed there, is that one is that, look, people are afraid of speaking out against, the subversion of our society by homosexuality and LGBTQ. I'm one of the few in the country. You're not going to hear many people who are capable of saying the sentence that I have just said. And that is all of the political parties. You can go down and look at them. So look, the issues, you've raised quite a few issues. Can South Africa be saved? Yes, South Africa can be saved. We need to, get rid of this subversive influence in our country. Our country has a parasite that is sucking our blood dry. Our country has a demon that is, infecting us with immorality, stirring the people up against each other. So the first thing is you must realize there is a cabal, there is an elite that is actively, strategically subverting this country. And they're doing so around the world. And that's the first thing. So any leadership of the country needs to be aware of that. Most of the politicians seem either not aware of that, which makes them unfit to be in charge of this country. And secondly, the others are silent on it and seeming they are aware of it, but they're living in fancy mansions, being bribed by the same people that are subverting the country.
They agree with it. They agree with it, man.
I think they bought over 100%. But the country can be saved. One, we need to be aware of the subversion and we need to target it like I am trying to do now. We need to address this issue head on. Secondly, the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank plays a very, very important role in our economy and where this economy goes to. And I think the Reserve Bank is one of the biggest subversive entities in this country, ripping this country off, pushing this country into crisis financially. You must remember, I want to answer some of the other issues that you've raised, but just on the issue of the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank's stated purpose is to protect the value of the rand. Have you seen what has happened to the rand? They've not been able to achieve that objective. And I think they've actively gone the other way around. The rand is being manipulated and nobody is asking where's the Reserve Bank on this issue. They have to maintain price stability. Go ask anyone, how much a loaf of bread cost in the 1990s and how much does the loaf of bread cost now? And you tell me the Reserve Bank is there to, that the Reserve Bank is there to protect price stability. No, the Reserve Bank is there to frustrate the economy and to hold this country back from its true potential. Now, in short, the country can be saved. It depends on the kind of leadership. It depends on the captain that is in charge. It depends on their vision and understanding. It's not impossible. In fact, this country's got huge potential. As you say, we've got a hell of a coastline, a 4,000-kilometer coastline of a strategic coastline, one of the most strategic coastlines in the world, if not the most strategic. We still have many mineral resources in this country. We have a fairly young population. There is more mineral resources that have been discovered. We are a country that is being frustrated, a country that is held back from its potential. We have a diverse population that can add to creativity, ingenuity, etc., to this country if it is organized properly. So it can be saved. Our fundamentals are good and strong. If I may just answer the issue of the turnout. You said that in your calculations, it is very difficult for us to achieve the less than 50%. Two things I want to explain to you. One, on some measures, firstly, there has been a general downward trajectory of voter turnout in this country since 1994. Steady drop. Yes, okay.
I agree.
In the 2019 election, there has been the election was already at 49%. It was already in some measures. It depends. Obviously, there's a few ways you can calculate the voter turnout. But one of the calculations of voter turnout in 2019 was already at 49%. Technically, the ANC is a minority government already. And so there is this trend. Secondly, the youth of this country still remain largely unregistered. And many of our registered voters are sitting in this election. It's the first election where of the voters 2 months before an election don't know who to vote for. All the options on the ballot is unappetizing. And to say to you one last thing on the issue of Zuma, look, Zuma lost in Nkandla. He lost when he was president of the ANC. He lost in Nkandla, the place where he's got his homestead. Secondly, I'm sure many South Africans know he was for 9 years he was in charge of this country. And we people have different views on what happened, but he was there for 9 years, and the country looks as it looks. Our people know this. And secondly, the IEC has now confirmed that Zuma can't be part of the contest. He can't be in parliament or any of that, So I don't
I need
believe.
to respond on that one.
Okay, please go ahead.
I have said it in one of my talks. Zuma has got, I'm sure he's got zero intention actually sit in office. Zero. He doesn't have that intention. I have said it that he is setting that party up for Duduzane. And then the people say, yeah, but Duduzane had started his own political party. And I say, yeah, but that's smoke and mirrors. What people tend to do when they talk about Zuma is they really forget that that guy is an super strategist. He is extremely strategic. They look at his standard 3 and then they bluff themselves and they're okay, stupid. He's one of the few black guys that I know that actually enjoys playing chess. And my personal opinion is Zuma was given a mission by the Kremlin. And the mission is to find a landing spot for BRICS forces in South Africa. Because the Americans has got forces here and they've got a base, a massive base in Botswana. The British has got 2 bases in Lesotho. But BRICS is 6 weeks away if something goes wrong. So I'm sure me and you are going to have more talks. And as time goes on, you're going to fight your campaign. Once you are totally happy that your constituents know what you are doing, I would like to have you back on the channel. And then we sit and we talk about each party. We talk about, not each, there's too many, but we talk about the main parties. And you tell us what rats are in their basements. And let's see, because I'm telling you, people was, look, I don't know if you're aware of it. I started a massive campaign against the Freedom Front Plus. Because as far as I'm concerned, they are traitors. They betrayed the Boere. And when I started off, there was a lot of resistance against it, but now you can see a lot of people have bought into it. And then that Peter Groenewald made the fucking stupid mistake on the launch of their manifesto. He came out and he said, Freedom Front Plus supports gay rights. I said, goodbye, daar gaat jy. Ek is klaar met jou. That's a fact. I'm a fundamentalist, Ricardo. I'm a fundamentalist.
That makes sure.
As you have said, you can't choose between two devils. I am adamant on it. You support gay rights? I can't associate with you because it's against the Bible and that's it. End of the story. Next. And that's the way. And this is what I'm trying to do. The followers of my channel, I'm trying to get them to that position that they understand that if they want control over their own lives, they better be willing to make fundamentalist choices, which is not negotiable. And I can see it's taking effect. But I'm glad that we spent time here. When you initially off camera told me that this is your plan, I was very skeptical. I'm not convinced that it's a good plan. But I am convinced that your reason for doing it is the correct reasons. You've got the right reasons for doing it. I cannot fault your reasons because it is. I'm just going to throw this in for you to think about tonight when you get into bed or sit there on your balcony and drink a cup of coffee. A large portion of the Boere tried that election boycott thing for 30 years. And where did it get them? Nowhere. That's how I feel about it. Have you got anything that you would like to say in conclusion to my viewers?
Yeah, look, I think that I think the election boycott is a good thing. I think that the Boere who did it for some time, I think the problem was one, gaining a critical mass, that you can't do this as a small minority. This has to become something that the whole population does. And look, let's be honest here. South Africans have lost faith in the system that we are living in now. Black, white,
That
whatever.
I agree with.
Everybody's lost faith in the system. So what I am saying now, a boycott is an expression that we have lost faith in the system, and that we feel it's time now for us to take stock, and it's time now for us to take charge and to say, look, we're not going to choose between devils. All the devils have to go, and all the evil in our system has to go. And as I say, we are all, South Africa is by and large a fundamentalist country. And I can assure you, the vast majority of the people of this country is against homosexuality and the LGBT, the vast majority. This is being imposed on us. And there is too few leaders who have the courage to say it and to speak out against it. And I applaud you, for speaking out against it. You're one of the few. I'm very happy to engage you on this issue. And I want you to also, have your cup of coffee and understand that the election boycott is something that can work. That people in the past might have, made a few mistakes. We can learn from the mistakes that they have made. I am advising and encouraging a new way of how this is done. But I'm sure, we need to find a way in our country where we stop the evil from spreading as it is, because we are all upset. All of us fed up about the system. And I am saying here, instead of us doing something violent and irresponsible, etc., let's have a peaceful, organized boycott to demonstrate that we cannot go on like this anymore as a country. We are not going to continue playing these games, choosing between one puppet and the other. We're not going to do so. And we are going to, have an organized, peaceful resistance, organized, peaceful protest. And the best protest now under these circumstances is a boycott. An election boycott means I'm not playing these games anymore. I've had enough. But it only works if we have a critical mass together, and if we do so actively and united in one group, organized, have specific demands on the table. That's when it works. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm sure the next few weeks, just let's get this Easter weekend behind us, and things normalize again. A lot of people are going to start questioning what happened to the voters' roll. I am sure about that, because after what you told me, that stinks to high heaven, man. And that is a dictatorship. Nothing else. Nothing else. And especially the fact that they tell you that they are not compelled to give reasons. What the fuck is that? I thought this was a democracy, and they can just throw you off and say, we don't need to give you reasons. How's that kite going to fly? I don't think the public are fully aware of the fact that that is what happened to you. But you see, Ricardo, that is how stupid people don't think further than the immediate result of what they say. They don't realize that, we take this route, this thing can turn ugly because it's going to run away. And by just throwing you off the list, that's already bad. After you have complied with all the rules. And then to come back and say, the law doesn't require us to give you a reason. How's that? But this was I like this chat, and I hope you are happy with what happened and that you are feeling comfortable, because I can tell you, there's not many politicians who's got the guts to sit across me. They don't do it. They won't do it. But I am going to discuss this with my audience as well. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate. You better watch the comment section on this when I publish it. I think there's going to be a lot of guys talking about what we have said here tonight, and specifically how you approached it, how you experienced it, and the outcome. I say, Ricardo, I salute you, man. I
No,
am
thank
a
you.
I'm a guy that respects people that are willing to stand up and say, "Here I am, count me." That is so important. And this Vaselinas and this Triple X agent sitting there in Parliament, they are a gutless, spineless lot of jellyfish. And they will change their opinions like that. And then they fall back on the IEC argument they don't need to explain. Have a great evening. Where do you live?
Thank you very much. I'm in Johannesburg, based in Johannesburg.
Oh, you're in
Yourself?
Joburg. Yeah. I'm in the Lowveld. I hope you have a great weekend. And if you can't be good, be careful.
Exactly. No, no, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And it was an honor speaking to your audience as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I wish everybody blessed holidays.
Thank you.